Assalamu alaikum. Hope you are doing well. My name is Mamona. Today my presentation is about Chapter 9, Decision Making. There are our learning objectives. Number 1, to explain the three categories of consumer decision making. Number 2, to describe 5 steps in the cognitive decision-making process. Number 3, to explain strategic implications of product categorization. Number 4, to explain the difference between the B2B decision making and consumer decision making. Okay, the three categories of consumer decision making are cognitive, habitual, and effective. Consumer decision making is a central part of consumer behavior, but the way we evaluate and choose products and the amount of thought we put into these choices varies widely, depending on such dimensions as the degree of novelty and risk related to the decision. We almost constantly need to make decisions about the product. Some of these decisions are important and um, entail great effort, whereas we make others on a virtually automatic basis. Perspectives on decision-making range from focus on habits and that people develop over time to novel situations involving a great deal of risk, in which consumers must carefully collect and analyze information before making a choice. Many of our decisions are highly automated. We make them largely by habit. The way we evaluate and choose a product depends on our degree of involvement with the product. The marketing message or the purchase situation. Product involvement can range from low, where purchase decisions are made via intuition, to high, where consumers form strong bonds with what they buy. A cognitive purchase decision is the outcome of a series of stages that results in the selections of one product over competing options. Traditionally, consumer researchers approached decision making from a rational perspective. According to according to this view, people calmly and carefully integrate as such information as possible with what they already know about a product. Painstakingly weigh the pros and menaces of each alternative and arrive at a satisfactory decision. Habitual decision making. We often rely on rules of thumb to make routine decisions. Um, for example, fried chicken with Coca-Cola or juice, spicy or sweet. The decision-making steps we've reviewed are well and good, but common sense tells us we don't undergo these elaborate screens every time we buy something. If we did, we'd spend our entire lives making these decisions. This would leave us little time to enjoy the things we eventually decided to buy. Some of our buying behaviors simply don't seem rational because they don't serve a logical purpose. Habitual decision making describes the choice we make with little or no consensus effort. Many purchase decisions are so routine we may not realize we've made them until we look in our shopping cart. Although decisions we make on the basis of little consensus thought may seem dangerous or at best stupid, this process actually is quite efficient in many cases. Effective decision making. Marketers often need to understand the consumer's behavior rather than a consumer's behavior. More than one person actually makes many purchase decisions. Collective decisions making occurs whenever two or more people evaluate, select, or use a product or service. In organizations and in families, members play several different roles during the decision-making process. These roles include gatekeeper, influencer, buyer, and user. As I mentioned last slide, what is a cognitive purchase decision? It is the outcome of a series of stages that results in the selections of one product over competing options. A typical decision involves several steps. The first is the problem recognition. When we realize we must take some action, this recognition may occur because a current position malfunctions, or perhaps because we have a desire to something new. Once the consumer recognizes a problem and see it as sufficiently important to warrant some actions, he or she begins to the process of information search. This search may range from performing a simple mm, memory scan to determine what he or she has done before to resolve the same problem to extensive field work during which he or she consults a variety of sources to amass such as much information as possible. The World Wide Web has changed the way many of us search for information. Today, our problems is more likely to weed out exercise detail than to search for more information. Comparative search sites and intelligent agents help to filter and guide the search process. We may rely on cyber such as web portals to sort through massive amounts of information as a way to simplify the decision-making process. In the evaluation of alternative stage, the options a person considers how to say constitute his or her evoked site. Members of the evoked site usually share some characteristics. We categorize them similarly. The way the person mentally groups products influence which alternatives she will consider, and usually we associate some brands more strongly with these categories. They are more prototypical. When the consumer eventually must make a product choice from among alternatives, he uses one of several decision rules. For example, there are two rules: non-compensatory rules eliminate alternatives that are deficient on many of the criteria we've chosen. And then is compensatory rules. which we are more likely to apply in high involvement situations, allow us to consider each alternative's good and bad points more carefully to arrive at the overall best choice. Once the consumer makes a choice, he or she engage in post-purchase evaluation to determine what is a good one. This assessment in turn influences the process the next time the problem occurs. Then is the objective three, strategic implications of product categorization. The way we categorize products has a lot of strategic implications for marketers. That's because this process affects which products consumers will compare to our product and also the criteria they will use to decide if they like us or the other guys. Number one, position a product. The success of a positioning strategy hinges on the marketer's ability to convince the consumer to consider its product within a given category. Pepsi Cola discovered when it introduced Pepsi EM and positioned it as a coffee substitute. The company did such a good job of categorizing the drink as a morning beverage that consumers wouldn't drink it at any other time, and the product failed. Number two, identify competitors as the abstract, superordinate, superordinate level. Many different product forms compete for membership. The category products and services that on the surface are quite different, however, actually compete with each other at a broad level for consumers' discretionary dollars. Number three, create an exemplar product. If a product is a category, then it is more familiar to consumers, and they more easily recognize and recall it. The characteristics of category exemplars tend to exert a disproportionate influence on how people think of the category in general. Number four, locate products in a store. Product categorization also can affect consumers' expectations regarding the places where they can locate a desired product. If products do not clearly fit into categories, this may diminish our ability to find them or figure out what they are supposed to be once we do. For instance, a frozen dog food that pet owners had to thaw and cook before they served it to photo field in the market, partly because people couldn't adapt to the idea of buying dog food in the dog for dog of frozen foods for people section of their grocery stores. How does B2B decision making compare to consumer decision making? Let me summarize the major differences between organizational and industrial purchase decisions versus individual consumers' decisions. Firstly, the purchase decision that companies make frequently involve many people, including those who do the actual buying, those who directly or indirectly influences this decision, and the employees who will actually use the product or service. Secondly, organizations and companies often use precise technical specifications that require a lot of knowledge about the product category. Third, number three, impulse buying is rare. Industrial buyers do not suddenly get an urge to splurge on lead pip or silicon chips because bears are professionals. They base on their decisions on past experience and they mm, carefully weigh alternatives. Number four, decisions often are risky, especially in the sense that a bear's carriers may read on his judgment. Number five, the dollar's volume of purchases is often substantial. It dwarfs most individual consumers' grocery bills or mortgage payments. 100 to 20, 250 organizational consumers typically account for more than half of a player's sales volume, which gives a buyer a lot of influence over the supplier. The last one is B2B marketing often um, em- emphasizes personal selling more than advertising or other forms of promotion. Dealing with organizational buyers typically requires more face-to-face contact than when marketers sell to end consumers. We must consider these important features when we try to understand the purchasing decisions organizations make. Mm, that's all. Thank you for watching and hope you everything is okay.